So, RSCoYT, Romsey School Community Youth Theatre. I set it up after I left, very sadly left, OYT, who I'd been with for nearly 30 years. And I left them because it seemed that the school under the new management weren't interested in developing drama or continuing with drama in the way that we'd always had it at Oaklands and the beginning of Oasis. They let it drift to the point that there was no one opting for it. All in a year from within the time that I left. It was incredibly sad to be part of, and it became impossible to recruit new members from youth theatre within a school that no longer seemed to support drama. And I was very lucky to have Ali Clark, who invited me to go to Romsey and run a youth theatre there. In a fantastic drama department where drama was supported by the management in a very full way, and in the way that I always had been and was used to. So it was set up from scratch. A few of the older ones came over from OYT, but only a very few, I think 4 or 5. And the rest was a young, completely inexperienced group, and much younger than I'd been used to working with. We worked for a term, and during that term I showed them different plays that they might do as a kind of trial to get used to working in my way. And the one they really wanted to work on was Arson About, which is now called Butcher Butcher Burning Bright. And I was quite excited because I'd never actually, I'd never directed it before. It was something that was commissioned originally by DBDA, and then they didn't use it. They wanted to tour it professionally, and they suddenly decided they wanted it for a different age group. And I said, well, it's for Year 9. So Nelson Thorns took it on. Andy Kemp came in and edited it. I'd never worked with an editor before, and he really helped me to hone the play in a way that I'd never had the opportunity to do before. So he really worked to help develop it. And my intention was to create a Hard to Swallow style play for Key Stage 3. So I wanted to have a play that would have those kind of opportunities for imaginative stylistic work in the way that I feel Hard to Swallow does for Key Stage 4. And the play went on tour. It was incredibly successful. It's been performed nearly 1,500 times, and it's done really well, really well. I'd never directed it though, so I was really interested to have the opportunity to work with a cast, with a brand new cast, directing a play. Now, what does directing mean when I do a play? I don't do a lot of directing, to be honest. I do a lot of kind of suggesting and then let people take it forward and then come back and say, oh, that's good, that's not. And in this instance I had one of the youngsters from OYT, Alysha Patis. She took on the role of assistant director, and very often she'd go into a completely different room and work with the cast on a scene from the play, whilst I worked with the cast from another scene on the play. So we worked like that together, and that's how the play grew. And the young people involved had a huge investment in it, and I can remember, I think there was virtually no absence whatsoever, apart from one person who went on holiday on one of the days, and that was it. They were a fantastic group, so I was incredibly pleased with their commitment. We did the production and we presented it at the local drama festival, and it went down very well. It won the best youth production in our region, in Southampton, Totton. And there are a few scenes that I just want to isolate that I'm particularly pleased with. At Oaklands we'd done something with platform theatre, which I really enjoy, which is putting theatre on a stage the size of a gym mat. Alysha had become particularly good at this, and we'd done it in some of the goat scenes that appear on the Hard to Swallow video, and they were really good. So I gave the platform theatre scene to Alysha, and she directed the the fairground scene, and what a grand job she and the little group did of making that scene really come alive in a completely different way. I also had just seen a Frantic Assembly show called Things I Know to Be True, I think that's the title. And they had used furniture in a really interesting way, and movement in a really interesting way. So going to the furniture first, that's one of the later scenes, I'm really pleased because it just gave me the idea of when people have their mental furniture rearranged in their head when something shocking happens. I thought, right, we could actually move the actual furniture in their front room. So that was the basis on which I had the germ of the idea for that scene. In the end, I wasn't able to attend that evening, and Alysha and Annie, one of the mums, the mum of Emily who played Molly, came in and saw my vision through, and I really loved what they managed to do with that scene. So that's a scene that I'm particularly proud of, and it's certainly not the way it was written, but it suited that adaptation or that way of performing it. And also using the physicalisation of mood in the opening family scene with the Grandad's Tomato scene. I love the way how the parents kind of act their middle class poshness and their pretense at being a perfect family, as Molly sits there very static and they're trying to be joyous, and that contrast works beautifully with the movements, and that is probably it's the scene that I said to Alysha, that's one I really want to do, because I had a big idea for that, and I feel it really came off well. So I'm looking forward to seeing that on the DVD, and I suggest that's one you click to straight away. And the use of the chorus, it's a great play for using the chorus. It's best shown in the scene when the fire is set and Molly's trapped in the school. I adore that scene, and I adored doing it with our young people, and they had millions of ideas. One of the scenes that I'm most pleased with that I've ever written, I think. So that's the production, and I hope it comes over on the DVD as well as it did live. Behind all great productions are a team of people who work really well together, and I'm very lucky I was able to take many of the team from OYT to RSCoYT. Kat came, she did the costumes. And very simple idea for the costumes was that we wanted to highlight the people who were the named characters, so we did that by the use of colour. Paul Ibbott came from OYT as well. He's produced our musical Underscore, and he'd come in and watch rehearsals occasionally, and then he'd just come back with these ideas. And lovely how he incorporates the fire ideas. So there was the match striking idea, a lovely idea. So the Underscore, and doesn't that half make the emotion come out so much more clearly? Just wonderful work at cheating the emotion, adding tension. So I'm really pleased with the way in which Paul managed to get that work. The set was basically done by myself and Annie, the mother of Molly, who offered to help us, and she wanted to use things that were associated with the fire setting. So waste paper bin, you'll see them in the background. Kat then had the idea of dressing them with little tiny weeny red lights, and paper spilling out of them, including the paper aeroplane, and an oil drum for the table, and we were going to have little waste paper bins for people to sit on, but they didn't work because they weren't strong enough to support. So just very simple ideas to make a set look different from just an empty black space. With lights, we benefited hugely from having Ollie Pope and Harry Johnson, who were from Romsey School. And I'll be honest with you, I don't know exactly what Ollie did, but he added colour to it that was well beyond what I could do. And his approach to the whole thing was incredibly sensitive. We had a problem because I was determined to use smoke, but the drama studio wouldn't allow us to use it because of a smoke detector. And in the end, I actually fully support that, and I'm quite boastful about the fact that we managed to do a play about fire without having to use pretend smoke. So that actually ended up being a really good creative decision that was an absolute accident. Sadly, due to my parents' ill health, this became my final production with a youth theatre as director, and I was very, very sad to give up OYT, but my family circumstances demanded that I offer my parents some time in the last months of their life, and I'm very proud to say that my dad, who was such a huge influence to me in my life and career, was able to see this, and it was the last production he saw of mine. So this is a very special production, and I'd like to offer it in tribute to him. Thanks, Dad, for everything you did for me in the early days, getting me involved in theatre through your involvement in Operatic Society, and I hope you enjoyed the little bit that I've contributed to theatre. Thanks a lot.